we live in a day and age where it seems like people are more disconnected than they've ever been. Friendships are not the way that they used to be in the past. If you look at the past, it seems like people were more alive. People connected more, people loved each other. But if you look at people today, it's like people are zombies in a sense. I think a lot of it has to do with social media, this sort of competition comparison that you see on social media. People are not looking at each other as human beings or friends or anything like that. They're looking at each other as competition. There's a lot of fear of missing out. You see this a lot when you look at social media. There tends to be that feeling of, man, I wish I could be traveling, I could be doing something, and it kind of breeds that competition within people. If you look at a lot of friendships these days, they're not really authentic friendships. They're not built upon a foundation of love, of brotherhood. It might be a brotherhood, but it's a fake brotherhood. It's a brotherhood based on betrayal, backstabbing, uh, cheating to one another, cheating on one another, lying, cheating, stealing, trying to get over on each other. These are fake brotherhoods that are pretty much built on a foundation of lies. Because a lot of this, you got a lot of this hustle and grind culture, and it's not creating true brotherhood. You also see this a lot with dating. You have this dynamic between men and women where it seems like men and women hate each other these days. Men and women are constantly complaining about each other. You got the guys, they got this sort of this red pill, this black pill content talking about how women are the problem and this and that. And then on the other end, you have women like these girl boss type women talking about how they don't need a man or anything like that. And it's not good for anybody. Men and women hate each other. Nobody is happy. Nobody has joy anymore. People don't value relationships. They don't value marriage. They don't value family. They don't value those things anymore. It's kind of like everybody's just out for themselves type of thing. Men and women are constantly being told that, family doesn't matter. You just got to focus on you and this and that. And it's like, yeah, you have to focus on yourself, to improve yourself and be a better person. But at the same time, you don't want to be this sort of egotistical being that's, you're dehumanizing everybody around you, because that's what it feels like in today's world. Men and women are dehumanizing one another. Friends are dehumanizing one another. And it's kind of tempting to want to stay alone. There's a lot of narcissism out there. There are a lot of people out there who don't really have your best interest. It's like this narcissism virus is just spreading at an all-time high, and more people are becoming aware of that. And when you become aware of that, especially as like a child of God, an empath, chosen one, whatever you want to call it, it's tempting to want to be alone. It's tempting to want to just stay in isolation, maintain the peace. And although that can be good for a time, we are not made to be alone. It's not good for man to be alone. We need community. We need connection. We need love. We need because love is what keeps communities together. If you look at this generation, and how disconnected people are, that's not a society. It's not a society that's going to uphold itself. It's going to collapse. People have to have community. They have to have connection, but finding the right people to sort of fellowship or have community with, that's where the real challenge comes in, because you don't want to be around just anybody. You want to be around people that have honor, that have integrity, that have love in their hearts. You don't want to be around people that are evil, narcissistic, they like to lie, cheat, steal. Because one of the things that we struggled with, if you were an empath, is in times past, you didn't really have high self-esteem. So you ended up putting up with people that you shouldn't have put up with. You were with people that were just grotesque. They were manipulative. They were somewhat bullies. They were liars, thieves, cheaters. And you put up with them because you didn't want to be alone. But now that you have that self-respect, it's kind of like, Why would I want to waste my time around people? But then you fall into the isolation trap, and that trap is, it's just a dark hole. You know, you don't want to be in that dark hole of isolation, because that will wither your soul, it'll wither your heart. And the next thing you know, you'll become this apathetic individual that just doesn't care about anybody. And that's not a healthy place to be either. So you have to kind of overcome that. You have to overcome that cynicism, and you have to start trusting again. That's a real challenge, to kind of open your heart again after you've been stabbed a bunch of times. You have to open your heart again to people. You have to open your heart again. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, just give your heart to anybody. You know, you want to be discerning. You want to use the wisdom that you have to sort of see what kind of people are going to be good for you, but you cannot fall into that isolation snare. And I don't think any of us are happy. You know, being isolated does not create a happy society. It's like everybody's against each other. And if we want to restore joy, we have to learn how to start trusting again, but not foolishly trusting, not trusting in the sense of like, I'm just going to be a people pleaser and put up with people. But you have to open your heart again, and you have to be discerning, and you got to try to find good friendships, pray for good friendships, and put yourself out there. And if it be God's will, he will bring the right people into your life. So don't stay isolated. Come out of isolation. Don't just be friends with anybody, but be wise about it, and you'll find the right people. Hope you guys like this video. I'm out.